Well, globally, I mean, still photography is still very, very important, and there's a plethora of photographers. I think, though, there are less and less young creatives or established creatives who have an appreciation for the power of photography. You know, I think in certain markets where it's very print-orientated, then I think people educate themselves to understand about, you know, the photographers out there, established, up and coming. I like to think up and coming, but I think in big markets like the US, you know, which probably has more photographers than anywhere else, people probably know less about the majority of them. I think people sort of are seduced by just knowing 3 or 4 names, you know, and they like the security of knowing someone who's tried and tested, as opposed to, you know, someone who's pushing the boundaries, really. Well, I think it's, you know, to take established photographs, it's a very easy thing to just borrow all the currency of that photograph and just apply it to a brand. I think that's a really lazy approach to do things sometimes. I think there are some times that the emotion that a photograph evokes, you know, can be put in sync with a certain brand, but sometimes it's a little bit of a borrowed interest.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think, you know, on the surface, I think it's, you know, sometimes it seems like a quick fix. I think you know, on a little bit deeper, I think sometimes it's a shame for some iconic photographs to be linked to a, you know, place that sells tyres or a, you know what I mean? I think it all depends. I mean, it's, you know, it's a how long's a piece of string question, but I think, but saying that, a lot of these photographers, I mean, they can, you know, they may have shot some iconic thing in Bosnia or something, but they can also reapply themselves and shoot something iconic and emotional, given a brief. Well, I think the advantage of a new photographer, like the advantage of an up-and-coming writer or a new director, is the fact that it's a different point of view on something. It's a different way of looking at something, capturing a talent or looking at a landscape, and you know, just I think you really want to work with people who have fresh ideas, fresh ambitions, who aren't cynical, who you can afford. You know, there's a whole lot of reasons, but I think, you know, every creative medium needs people to challenge from the bottom. I mean, you know, no mountaintop is made from the top. It comes from the forces from under. You know. Well, Magnum is a sort of it started as a pet passion. I mean, because I actually am quite obsessive about photography, and fortunately, I was asked if I could help just sit on an advisory board for Magnum, because Magnum's, you know, I think everybody in the world knows a Magnum shot, if not many Magnum photographs, but they don't know enough about Magnum, the organisation. And I think Magnum is probably the greatest collection of print storytellers of the last 60 years. I think they're phenomenal. I think they're phenomenal, and they're not corrupted by the commerce of capitalism. And I mean, it's just brilliant. I think they've captured the last 60 years like no one else. Well, I have several favourite photographs, and I mean, it's like asking someone what their favourite book is. It depends on the moment, the time, and the mood. I think there are certain photographs that I think are iconic, that are cliched iconic, that it's easy to love, you know, from the sort of Tiananmen Square one or from certain Ali ones, but I'm also very taken now, which is relevant to the place I'm in at this moment, is I'm quite obsessed by a lot of Chinese contemporary art and a lot of the Chinese contemporary photographers out there that I think are amazing. You know, Haibo, I think is, you know, does some amazing, striking, beautiful stuff. I think there's a conceptual photographer called Hong Hao, who I think is amazing. You know, I think there's a lot of great people, and again, you know, they're artists, or I suppose all photographers are artists, but you know, the way they're applying their craft is phenomenal. So my current obsession is Chinese contemporary artists / photographers, same thing. As someone who is a creative person and also someone who likes to visit galleries and collects art and photography, you know, there's purity to that, and then I also work in an industry where there's a clash between creative and commerce, where, you know, it's trying to not compromise at all. But I think for me, my only advice would be, you know, there are so many people that look to emulate other types of photographers. They see a certain photographer has a certain genre and success, and some photographers think that their way to make their own footprint is to emulate somebody else. And I'm always looking for someone that has just this quite different slant on things. I mean, you know, it's all the same dots out there. I'm just looking for people to join it in a different sequence. I'm too greedy to give all the love to one, you know what I mean? Which is like me reading, you know what I mean? I have too many books for different reasons. And that's why I think it's fantastic that, you know, there's so many different styles of photography and you know, up and coming photographers out there, because, you know, I have an insatiable appetite, and photographers, you know, tick a huge box in my life. You know, they bring something that I don't have, and they capture something that I can't see, you know what I mean? What I love about photography, I think it's probably, you know, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, and just because it's still, I think it actually has more emotion than sometimes moving footage with sound, because you imply your own backstory and future stories to it, and you sort of try and envisage what was happening around, and, you know, it's phenomenal. It's more than just a one-dimensional canvas.